All right, here we go. Welcome, everybody, to Pigskin Banter. Today, I am joined by Shreyas, and Ali will be in shortly here as well. Jess and Bilal will not be here today. I do not believe, but we shall see.
Gordon, I'm gonna also view from my computer, so don't add me on the studio.
All right, no worries.
So I'm able to see the screen.
No worries. That works. And then so today we'll be going over week 9 of the NFL. We'll be going game by game, updating our tier list, and just talking about things in general. But I wanted to start before we get into anything. I wanted to start by highlighting some breaking news from today, and that is Carson Wentz has signed with the Los Angeles Rams. So the team that passed up on him for Jared Goff. Now, with Goff's replacement in Matthew Stafford being injured, two good older white quarterbacks both got injured at the same time. Got them confused. Anyway, with Matthew Stafford now down with injury, they bring in Carson Wentz to come in since Rippon looked like trash against the Packers. Shreyas, what do you think of this Wentz move?
That shouldn't be really breaking news. I mean, Carson Wentz, hasn't been great for what? When was his last good season? 2019, you would say? 28?
I mean, he was bad with the Colts, and then he looked good to start with the Commanders, and then it all fell apart at the end of the season. So
yeah, but it doesn't really surprise me. Their backup quarterback isn't any promising. Needs something. The Rams are. I think the Rams are trying to at this point with the moves the Rams made, you can tell they're trying to salvage what they have before they realize, we got to get rid of all these big name guys that we sold our farm for essentially. So don't really look at it much of a big move.
Fair enough. It is. I find it interesting, just that. I find it interesting it took this long, honestly, for him to get signed to a team, just with all the quarterback injuries going around. Oh, Ali is here. Let me add him to our group. Hi, Ali. We're just talking about the Carson Wentz news.
What's up, y'all? My bad, Albert. I had a little bit of Wi-Fi troubles, but we're good now.
Yeah, no worries. But so with Carson, it's one of those things
Thank you for noticing.
We've had all these injuries throughout the season to so many quarterbacks. We talked about that a couple weeks ago with all these new quarterbacks, and he finally gets signed. I would have thought he would have gotten a job sooner, even though I know he's not a guy that's going to necessarily put you over the top. If you're looking to get in the playoffs, he's probably going to be the reason you miss the playoffs. Just that seems to be the trend with Wentz recently. But, as an Eagles fan, it is always fun to watch him struggle. However, as a human, if Wentz does well with the Rams, so be it. I'm not going to necessarily root evil on the guy. I'm not going to be like that. But, I'm also not going to be sitting here going yes, go Weds.
Listen, Wentz is just pulling a Baker Mayfield where he's just going to hop on the Rams for a few games, and whether he plays well or not is going to determine whether he gets signed for next year.
That's fair. Could you imagine? Oh my God! Could you imagine Rodgers says, "Noah, I'm retiring after this." Say he comes back and re-injures it or something, and just retires, and the Jets scramble and sign Wentz because he looks good this year.
The Jets should have signed Wentz when Zach Wilson played that Week 2 game.
That's true.
Well, with my thing with the Aaron Rodgers stuff, I'm assuming we're probably gonna have to talk about it, but I don't think he should come back even if the Jets have a good shot of making the playoffs, just because that offensive line needs to be fixed in order for him to get back, because that offensive line is the reason why he got hurt in the first place. If you watch that game, I think they just did not think, who was it, Dwayne Brown didn't pick up that one block, that one rusher, and just boom.
For being real here, the Jets should have been the team to trade for Josh Dobbs. Sorry, but Zach Wilson is not it. You need a quarterback. You guys, you're gonna lose that locker room. keeping Zach Wilson. You don't make a move for anybody. The only guy that was really available that would be an upgrade was Josh Dobbs. And we saw he goes to the Vikings, and without even knowing the offense, literally they're explaining plays to him in the huddle. Like, they're drawing it up, explaining everything in the damn huddle, and he goes out there and wins. Now, you could argue the Falcons falconed. That is fair. Maybe it's more the Falcons than Josh Dobbs, because it is the Falcons. But still, it was the Vikings as well. So, like, as much as the Falcons, the Vikings are known for doing really, really horrible, stupid things as well, causing their fans pain. So, yeah.
When we talk about the Zach Wilson thing, to think that one pro day throw was just like, I don't know what the Jets scouts and the fan base. I don't want to say the fan. I don't know what the Jets owner, general manager, and scouts saw with that one pro day throw to make him the second overall pick. I've said from the beginning, Zach Wilson is not fit shouldn't be a first round quarterback at all. I was thinking that draft, because that draft did have Trevor Lawrence and all. I was thinking that draft they would at least be Justin Fields or Mac Jones. I thought it was going to be those two guys going to the Jets. Zach Wilson had no reason to be the number 2 overall pick.
No, that was a big mistake. That being said, let's get to our games. I'm going to pull up our tier maker here. So let me where's the share screen? There it is. Alrighty, let's start with our Thursday night game. We had the Titans against the Packers. I'm looking at Rams Packers on my screen, and I said the wrong thing. Titans against the Steelers.
There it is.
That's the team. So before we let our local Steelers fan break down this game and all the fine details that deserves to be broken down into, I want to give my 2 cents. I do think that if anything, this showed that Will Levis very well has the potential to be the guy. We need to see more from him, obviously, but he has the potential. I will also say the Steelers need to find a first through third quarter quarterback. Some guy that can just play the first 3 quarters. But then you don't let him play the fourth quarter, because for some reason Kenny Pickett in the fourth quarter is the second coming of John Elway.
Or Ben Roethlisberger. Really, let's be honest.
No. Kenny Pickett is the worst clutch quarterback of all time. Alec told me that over text the other day, and I completely agree with it. He is the worst clutch quarterback of all time, and that's the only way you could really describe Kenny Pickett.
Doesn't he have like 7 game-winning drives?
2 against the Ravens. 2 against the fucking Ravens, obviously. Can't believe it.
That's crazy.
And you said Will Levis has the potential to be him. I kind of disagree. I think Will Levis is going to be the guy. I don't think he needs to show us more. I think he showed us enough the first 2 weeks. Will Levis has it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can tell right off the bat if a quarterback has it or not. He definitely has it.
Well, speaking of that, he was actually promoted to QB1, I think. They're officially going to go with him as the starter.
I think we kind of predicted that during our last episode, didn't we? When we were doing a quarterback tier maker.
Yeah. All right. So I think the Titans don't move out of South. I think they would have needed to have a win here for anything to change them. And I think the Steelers are, with the Bills shooting themselves in the foot, I think wild card is where they stay.
I think they're playoffs, honestly.
What was that?
Have a good opportunistic defense. And they actually showed some offensive ability last week. They put up over 360 yards of total offense, which I know isn't 400 yards, which is like that benchmark that they haven't been able to reach in 50-some odd games. But they've had 350 plus for the first time this season. And it showed some promise. They ran the ball for over 5 yards a carry against a pretty good Tennessee run defense. And this complete shock. Even Najee Harris, listen, as a dude, I love Najee Harris. He's one of the funniest guys, one of the most lovable people in the league if you actually watch his interviews. But he hasn't been playing well this season. Thursday night, he looked like the old Najee Harris, and I wish I could see more of that. And if we do, the Steelers are solidifying their place in the wild card.
That's fair. Shreyas?
To be honest, when we talk about the Steelers, when we just talk about the AFC North in general, I think that division is going to come down to 3 teams, honestly. That's how competitive I think this division is going to be as the season goes on. I am not putting the Ravens as a lock to win it, obviously. You got Cincinnati that looks like they're slowly getting it together. Pittsburgh, I mean, they're somehow pulling wins out of their asses every fucking time. I don't know how. So,
and the Browns, Deshaun Watson, if he can look like he did this past week, I mean, yeah, this is going to be
as of right now, they're in that playoff spot.
Right. Every single team in the AFC North is in the playoffs right now.
Mm-hmm.
Then today, yep. But my takeaway from the game just proves many things. I mean, Kenny Pickett, I mean, is he? There's a lot of questions about it going forward. George Pickens looks like he's starting to throw some sort of a fit without in the ball. And the Titans, I mean, I think it just proves that their window. I think their window's kind of closed with Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill, and all those guys. And I think Vrabel needs to start looking towards the future now. I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, and in regards to the George Pickens thing, Mike Tomlin had a press conference today where he called it a quote, just a pebble in my shoe, a minor inconvenience, a minor annoyance.
Dude, after dealing with AB, isn't everything that just a pebble in your shoe?
Yeah, pretty much. I think that's what he was getting at.
Like, there's nothing about like you. I'm pretty sure if Tomlin had Henry Ruggs on the team, he would still say it's just a pebble in his shoe when compared to AB.
Like, probably.
I mean, I think Tomlin should win Coach of the Year just because of the fact he put up with Antonio Brown, put up with Martavis Bryant, who actually just signed with the Cowboys.
He's back in the league, right?
Yeah, signed with the Cowboys. He's had to put up with Ben Roethlisberger's ego for so many years, and he put up with Le'Veon Bell. I mean, as a fellow Ravens fan, hey, Mike Tomlin, salute to you, buddy. You're the real one.
Alrighty. Our next game was our German game, and this game was not as close as the score made it out to be. The Dolphins at the end did start coming back a little bit, but the Chiefs dominated right off the jump. They went up. Didn't they go up 21-0?
Yeah.
Yeah. They went up 21-0 at the half. The Dolphins did start fighting their way back in the third quarter, and then neither team scored in the fourth. But it just, even when the Dolphins started getting things together, they got lucky with that fumble. I never felt like the Chiefs were going to lose this game. And I think this further shows that while they should have the division on lock at this point, seeing that the Bills can't seem to figure anything out with that team, and the Jets. But I think it shows that the Dolphins are not built for the playoffs. This team is not built to go up against those really good opponents. They're not built to go up against teams that are going to play those tougher, grittier games. They are a great offense when playing against opponents that aren't going to challenge them. But when it gets into a brawl, I don't think they win those games. It just shows they've lost to the Bills, the Chiefs, and now the Eagles. And it's like, this is a team that just isn't there yet. They're really good, but they're not there yet.
Yeah, and like you said, every playoff game is a brawl. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like they have very strong potential to go one and done in the playoffs. They're a finesse team at the end of the day, and finesse teams don't really win championships.
I agree.
Alrighty, boys. We kind of talked about this game a little bit. Vikings-Falcons. This game was actually really fun to watch. I don't know if you guys tuned into it at all, if you guys had Red Zone on, but this game was very enjoyable. I love the Josh Dobbs story. I love the fact, I don't know if you guys saw this. This is what made me fall in love with Josh Dobbs. When he was on the Cardinals, he was in the team store, and he's reacting to, like, they have a jersey machine, and his name wasn't – you couldn't get a custom Dobbs jersey, and it was just very funny. And, like, this man, he's been, like, put in a horrible situation in Arizona. You see what that team looks like without him. And then he goes to Minnesota, isn't expected to start this week, and then Jaron Hall gets hurt, and he gets thrown in there, and they're explaining plays to him in the huddle, and somehow he pulls off a win. Like, I know it wasn't pretty for him when he first went in, but, I mean, you shouldn't expect it to be. Like, there's that early safety. I believe there was, like, a fumble. But then he came up clutch in the end.
Yeah, I feel like if Hall played that game all the way through, Atlanta gets the win. But since they had to switch to Dobbs, and that was the deciding factor to give Minnesota the win. So with that said, I feel like you have to switch the Falcons and the Vikings, yeah.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say the Vikings. They're currently what are they now? 5-4. They're besides you got the Cowboys and Seahawks, and I think the three. I don't know if there's any team that's going to challenge any of them at this point.
Especially with the injury to Matthew Stafford, you could see the wheels fall off the Rams real fast.
Well, we were talking about it before you joined. I mean, Gordon, did we talk about Carson Wentz before our league?
A little before, but he came in during the discussion.
Yeah, but I think I was saying that the Rams, I think they're trying to salvage what they can with their core before they have to ship them off or get rid of them.
Right. Yeah. I do think the Rams may put up a challenge, although they're now 2 games back of the Vikings.
They're 3.
They're 3-6, and even if the playoffs are on the line on the final game, does anybody trust Carson Wentz will be able to pull that off? I sure don't after what happened with the Colts and the Jaguars.
No, if it comes down to a Week 18 matchup, just put Rippon in the game. You have a better chance.
Seriously. Alrighty. What was our next game here was, let's see, we just talked about the Vikings. Oh, Bears Saints. Oh my God, was this game ugly.
I did not watch it. Thank God I did not.
You lucked out. This game was ugly. And at first I was thinking, are the Saints really going to lose to the Bears? Mm-hmm. And that's how it looked a bit to start. The Bears actually were looking decent enough. The Saints offense had disappeared from the past 2 weeks. And then the Saints started to come back and the Bears turned back into the Bears. And I think we kind of saw this play out how it should have by the end. That being said, I think the Bears put up a stronger fight than people thought they would. I think the Saints were a little worse than people thought they would be. But, again, I don't see anybody in the Saints division challenging them at this point. Unfortunately, Baker Mayfield's defense let him down this week. The Falcons falconed, and the Panthers are depressed. So I don't think anybody challenges the Saints in that division. But I think the Saints I think it's going to be an ugly, ugly game. And whoever gets in for the wild card that has to go against the Saints are probably going on to the next round.
Yeah, as of right now, it would most likely be the Cowboys going into New Orleans. I feel
like. Jesus Christ!
So I think that should be a win for Dallas if it were to play through like that.
Well,
one more thing. I feel like Tyson Bagent is good enough to be the backup quarterback for the Bears for the next 10, 15 years. He just has that kind of – he's a fan favorite. I love him. The fans love him. And he's good enough as a number 2 QB. If their situation is right.
Love him backup quarterbacks, man. You love Trace McSorley, glorified backup. Not Josh. Anthony Brown, the Ravens' old backup quarterback, I think.
The AFC North is so stacked that there's 2 former Pro Bowlers that are backup quarterbacks in that division.
Wait, who? Who are we talking about?
Tyler Huntley.
Tyler Snoop. Yeah, my man Snoop.
And Mitch Trubisky, both former Pro Bowlers, both backup quarterbacks.
What?
That is really funny. But yeah.
Bowler, but I mean, good Lord. That is.
By the way, we'll get to it in a little bit here, but right above the Bears is the Watch Kyler Murray tier. And I don't know if you guys saw this, but the new, I believe it's the new COD comes out this week.
It comes out right now.
And Kyler Murray's expected to start this week.
Oh.
So this could be very funny. That being said, a game that was not fun, was not interesting, and was honestly a bit surprising was Rams-Packers. And now, I get it, Stafford wasn't playing, but 3 points against this Packers team? How do the Rams look that horrible? And now I get why they went out and got Wentz, because you played a Packers team that had nothing going for them. They traded off Rasul Douglas. They'd given up on this season pretty much. They were looking like they might have to blow the whole thing up. And now you give the Packers a bit of a sense of false hope, and you look horrible. Bad. The Rams without Stafford are not going to even come near the playoffs, in my opinion.
Definitely, I completely agree with that. The Rams might just be delegated to trash instead of just miss at this point.
Yeah, as much as I put them in, as much as I want to put them in bad, I think because they lost to the Packers so badly, I think it's trash.
Well, it's a mixture of. They also had expectations to be at least competitive. They're not even like it's hard to watch them at this point. They're not,
right, that game wasn't even fun.
It was. They're not even fun.
No.
You mean watch the Rams? I mean, like it's kind of. I think like the last 2 years, it kind of proven like is Sean McVay really like the top tier coaches everyone makes him out to be? Is he this like genius everyone makes him out to be? Is Matthew Stafford's season just like a one flash in the pan? Because we're really slowly starting to see why Matthew Stafford didn't win a lot in Detroit.
Hold on.
Just saying.
Don't go there. That man did everything for Detroit, and they gave him nothing besides Megatron. They gave him Megatron, but they gave that roster absolutely nothing else for years.
It's the question that you ask. I'm not saying it's a true confirmation. Sean McVay, I am. That's not a question. I do think it's slowly coming to light.
I think Sean McVay is ready for retirement.
I do too.
With Aaron Donald.
I genuinely think Sean McVay, once he got his ring, was like, all right, I'm done.
Yeah.
I just don't think the motivation's there. And you talk about Super Bowl hangover and that lack of hunger for another championship, and that happens. Like, you get complacent. Like, if you don't have that drive to want another one, if you feel like you've achieved your goal, that very much can be the difference in the NFL. And those hungrier teams will take you out.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing that on top of some, the guys getting older for the Rams, guys that they sold everything off for. So this was coming. And then they started off looking like, oh, wait, maybe this won't be as bad as people thought. And now I think because they set that expectation after they were overachieving for what people thought, now that they're looking bad again to where people thought they would be at the beginning of the season, the fact that they overachieved is now making people perceive them as being worse than maybe like we would have thought if they were just bad from the jump.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
All right. This next game doesn't change anything on our tier list. You have the least of the East. Patriots, Commanders. You have the Commanders who just sold off pieces. They're going into New England. You're thinking, all right, there's no way Belichick loses this game. And somehow the Commanders pull this one off. And I didn't see too much of this game just because I can't be bothered. I'm sorry. As an Eagles fan, you cannot ask me to sit there and watch Commanders Patriots and enjoy it. That's not going to happen.
It did get good in the fourth quarter. I'll admit that.
Yeah, I saw a couple plays in the fourth quarter. Sam Howell continues to look decent. The interception in the game, I mean, he's good for a turnover a game usually, but it is what it is. I still think he looked decent enough. I do think the Commanders have something there eventually if they keep building, but obviously they sold off pieces, and the Patriots, they look done. Now, before anybody jumps the gun and says, is Belichick getting fired? Because I saw those rumors circling today. Belichick might be fired if they don't beat the Colts, blah, blah, blah. These people are not realizing he has signed an extension, or even if they do, they just want to put that out there, So Belichick's not going anywhere. They will let that man retire when he wants to retire.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think as much as people have been, including myself, been critical of Belichick, he's gotten to that point in his career. He's even though, he wasn't the key factor in all the winning that New England had, he's gotten to that point, though, where he's going to leave on his terms. He's going to leave when he feels like it, not when Kraft or the fans say it. So I think
the only reason why Belichick hasn't retired yet is because he's going for the all-time wins total.
Yeah, I agree. I think as soon as he hits that, he retires the next day. Genuinely, I think that's all he wants at this point, which I don't blame him for. All right, boys. Shreyas just muted himself.
Yeah, I mean, I was just checking something, so I'll be.
Oh no, you're no worries. I just want to make sure you're here because our next game is your Ravens up against the Seahawks, and my God, the NFC does not like playing against the Ravens, apparently. You have two teams that everybody's like, ooh, they could be really good in the Lions and the Seahawks. And then the Ravens make the Lions look like crap, and then they make the Seahawks look even worse. My God, Shreyas, tell us everything about this game.
Well, let me see if I can find what I'm looking for. But so I think two of the last 3 weeks, the Ravens have played two teams that everyone in the media, ESPN, Fox, like all Bleacher Report was all saying, "Oh, this is going to be a really good team to watch." When I look, a combined score of 77-9. That's how badly they've beaten the brakes off of both teams. Combine. But total takeaway from the game. I mean, you have an offense that looks like it's clicking on all cylinders. You have a defense that I think is playing that's playing better than the 2000 Ravens defense, allowing below 14 points a game in this day in NFL is impressive as it is. But the only thing I would say negative, or a couple things, is I think the fumbling exchange between Lamar and mainly Justice Hill is really starting to concern fans. Because Ali, you texted me about this during the game actually when it happened. That can't happen when you're in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Those two got to figure it out and get it together fast, because players are slowly approaching. And that's not going to roll when you have to play teams like Buffalo, Cincinnati, probably. Pittsburgh's probably. Jacksonville. It's not going to roll. And another thing I'm really concerned is offensive left tackle. Ronnie Stanley, I mean, he had some great years there, but it's looking slowly like, he's probably looking like he's getting out of Baltimore with how poor his play has been. For all the money he's making, there's some pressures. I'm just looking like, dude, how do you not pick that block up? But I don't know if this is slowly getting back, because he hasn't been playing a lot in the last couple of years. But I'm really concerned because you're going up against some good edge rushers. You have T.J. Watt in the division that's always causing havoc. You got Alex Highsmith as well. A lot of problems on the offensive line. I think specifically left tackle that need to be addressed. But overall, I think it's a great team win. I do think this team is. I know my top 10 rankings, I have the Ravens number 1. That could be biased, but I do think they got the defense to go against any offense in the league at this point.
That's fair.
Yeah. I just, I want to see the Ravens do it in the playoffs. I want to see Lamar Jackson actually perform to Lamar Jackson level in the playoffs. He hasn't done that yet in his career.
What's crazy about this last game was Lamar didn't throw for over 200 yards. He's under 200 yards throwing this game, and they put up 37 points. So,
the field position was always in the Ravens' favor the whole game with all the turnovers Geno was throwing up.
Right. So I think that's – but my point is, as much as Lamar hasn't looked like Lamar in the playoffs, with how good the defense has been, Lamar might not have to look like Lamar in the playoffs.
Yes, let's see. When you look at the Ravens' running game also, you had Gus Edwards, who had his typical Gus Edwards day, being the bruiser.
Who is that Mitchell guy?
Mitchell. I've looked on X. I looked on the X, or formerly known as Twitter, Instagram. Everybody is hyping up Keaton Mitchell. And I know Raven fans have a tendency to hype up all these undrafted or late round players, and most of them don't pan out. But this Keaton Mitchell guy, when I watch him every single time, he looks like he's being shot out of a cannon. And I'm not even exaggerating. That's how it looks like when he's running every time. He's just going straight from a cannon, boom, like that.
It might be worth a fantasy ad, that kid.
Yeah, I put a waiver in. For him, but I'm top 4 in Yahoo league, so I don't know if I'll get him. Hopefully, no one else is smart to get him. But you have the Ravens running game, that's been one of the best in the league with Gus Edwards. They lost J.K. Dobbins, but it looks like they got a good tandem with Justice Hill, Gus Edwards. Now coming along.
Alrighty, boys. Our next game, Buccaneers and at the Texans. And I'm pretty sure Baker Mayfield now just hates Texan quarterbacks. Deshaun Watson stealing his job, and now C.J. Stroud stealing his thunder. Baker did everything he possibly could in this game to give the Bucs a win, and the defense let him down as C.J. Stroud had the most passing yards by any rookie in a game ever and 5 touchdowns. C.J. Stroud is him. Honestly, Lovie Smith winning that game may have been the best thing to happen for the Texans because it guaranteed that they would get Stroud and they didn't have to make that decision where they could have potentially accidentally taken Bryce Young. So honestly, they can thank Lovie Smith finally for that win instead of hate him for it. And yeah, just Bryce Young looked really good. Baker looked good as well, but neither team had a good defense this week.
Yeah.
Well, I think it shows his stride going to be great. And Baker Mayfield, I mean, sucks to be Baker at this point.
That's the thing. Like, for me, the Buccaneers have just really disappointed this season. I mean, with the division being as wide open as it is, they've lost so many back-to-back winnable games against Atlanta and Houston. If they win those 2 games, they're probably ahead in the division. Instead, when you look at the personnel that they have, they should be able to be better than what they are. Todd Bowles, being a defensive genius, should have been able to do something to slow down that Houston offense. But I guess what it is.
Right. It's funny to me that we feel disappointed in the Bucs, but at the same time, nobody expected anything from Baker with the Bucs. So it's Baker's not the problem there, but that team, when I think it was there were no expectations because nobody expected anything from Baker. But the second Baker looked good, it was okay, well, the rest of the team is there. So yeah.
You got to remember, you go from Tom Brady to Baker Mayfield.
But that's not the issue.
Yeah. I
mean, Baker is the least of their worries right now.
The Buccaneers just aren't playing complementary football. When the offense does good, the defense doesn't want to do good. When the defense does good, the offense doesn't want to do good.
Right.
They can't play a complete game on both sides of the ball.
Also, the Texans are at a point where if they had won that game against the Panthers instead of blowing that game, they are in just missed to wild card territory. I think this is going to be a good season for the Texans, but I still think it's too little, too late.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I mean, with the wild card team, with the potential wild card teams, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, and Buffalo. I mean, I don't think Houston's got the firepower to keep up with.
Right.
Them.
And even the Chargers now chasing.
Yeah. The Chargers could squeak in.
Right. All righty, boys.
Make our good friend, may he rest in peace, Jess Saban, very happy.
I still cannot believe he said the Chargers were going to be better than the Ravens.
He legitimately said the Ravens would miss the playoffs.
Yeah, he said the Ravens would miss the playoffs.
Why you missed that take? I want to have a word with that guy.
Right?
To be fair, I think he basically said the Ravens are never healthy, so he has no faith that they'll be healthy.
That's J.K. Dobbins. I mean, you don't really have – everyone else is expected to be back at full strength at some point.
Right. All right, boyos. This next game, Cardinals-Browns, and Cardinals, man, you better hope Kyler looks decent because otherwise this is going to be pain the rest of this season. The Browns just absolutely destroyed you guys. You guys managed to make Deshaun Watson look good. And the Browns, honestly, if Deshaun Watson can play anything like that for the rest of the season with how good that defense is, and I think they end up making it into the playoffs or the Bills because I have no faith in the Bills at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Bills might mess around and miss the playoffs altogether the way they're playing right now.
Fully agree.
I hate the Browns. Legit. No doubt about it.
It would be the Browns or the Chargers squeaking in and taking that last playoff spot.
And right now the Browns hold it, so.
Yeah. You might have to downgrade the Bills at this point.
I'm fine with that. And
even the Jets have an outside chance of making it, even though now that the Chargers have the tiebreaker against them, so it might be much harder for them to get in. But they're hovering at 500. They have an outside chance of making it.
The Chargers, it wasn't the way you wanted to go into the game and play, but with how bad Zach Wilson is, and because if you look at it, Zach Wilson actually had a decent outplayed Justin Herbert. If you look at it, Herbert, I think was not that effective at all.
Yeah, it genuinely looked like all the Jets receivers dunked their hands in soap before the game because every single ball was flying right out of their hands. So as bad as Zach Wilson has been, he had zero help. It looked like Ravens receivers out there.
Yeah, on the one hand, Zach Wilson was airmailing easy, like 5-yard out routes, but on the other hand, Alan Lazard is a bona fide scrub who should not be in the NFL.
Oh,
so,
God.
He's only there because of Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
So I guess we just talked about the Chargers-Jets game because why not? And I guess while we're talking about these teams, we might as well talk about Bills-Bengals, and then we'll go back and cover the last few games here. I thought the Bengals were going to win this, but this is now twice where the Bills have played the Bengals, and the Bills just do not have it.
Mm-hmm.
The Bills are not that team anymore. Josh Allen is too inconsistent. The defense is too injured. Everything with the Bills, their window is closed at this point, in my personal opinion, until they do some type of retool. Like, I'm not saying they have to blow the whole thing up, but they got to make some changes if they want to win a Super Bowl with Josh Allen at this point.
I think the changes have to start with Leslie Frazier and defensive coordinator. He hasn't been good enough thus far. Despite the injury, that defense looks bad. They still have Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, Von Miller. They just don't look good at all.
Well, Von Miller, look like he just needs to retire at this point. I mean, look.
Dude, I've never seen Von Miller miss a tackle like that.
Yeah, he looks like a shell of himself. I mean, secondary, the Tre'Davious White being hurt and all. Linebacking core has impacted on Matt Milano, but I not expect the Bills to be this bad at all.
What's crazy to me is that this Bengals team, the Bengals and Ravens, only one can win the division, and one will have to play as a wild card. But they both are right now playing like some of the best teams in the league. And that furthers the question, is the NFL playoff format the right format? I've said for years, I think it's kind of silly that you'll have a team get home field just because they were the best of their shit division. Meanwhile, you can have a team that's like the second or third best team in the league have to play as a wild card team. And I've always thought that was a bit ridiculous.
Look at last year. I mean, the Buccaneers were terrible, and the Cowboys were like, the Cowboys weren't in a division with the Eagles. They could have easily been in a division with anywhere else. I mean, the Bucks hosted and got whooped by the Cowboys.
Yeah, I've never liked the idea, and this goes for all sports because baseball does it as well. I don't like the idea of rewarding a team just based off the division they're in. We see it in baseball as well, where you had the two best teams in the entire league. I believe this was last year, and they were in the same division. You can't help if the team in your division is getting wins, even if you beat them and they still win more games. Like, there's only so much you can do with that. Like, I don't know. It bugs me a little bit, and that's just with all sports. It's not just football. I've never liked that format. I genuinely think it should just be based on record, best played, worst. Like, that's how I've always felt with all sports, though.
No, I kind of disagree. I like the way it is. I just don't like the 17 playoff format. I miss the 16 playoff format. It just made more sense. You're letting mediocrity into the playoffs. We're sitting here talking about who should make the playoffs, the Vikings or the Rams. Like, that's a meme altogether. And
to be fair, I think the Vikings could pull off an upset this year.
In the first round versus they would have to go into San Francisco in the first round, I believe, as of right now.
They did beat San Francisco.
Okay, but let's think this out. If they go against San Fran, they beat San Fran. Wait, didn't they already beat San Fran?
They did, yeah.
Yeah, but they were at home, and actually, no, wait, they go into Detroit, right? Because Detroit's the 2 seed as of right now.
Oh, well, then it's a division game, and that's a toss-up.
Okay, well, when you're going to talk about division, Seattle and San Francisco are still neck and neck for the NFC West. So they can't. So realistically, you can't really just guarantee San Francisco right away.
Right.
But Detroit
I just
is
think the Vikings have a chance with right now. I think last year, even though they were a higher seed last year than they're going to be this year, I think that was worse for them. I think being an underdog team for them honestly might be the best thing for them. And if teams overlook them, underrate them, you can't do that with Justin Jefferson. You cannot underrate him. You have now Addison looks really good for them. This team's coming together, and I think they're one of those teams that's going to come into the playoffs, and teams are going to overlook them. And it could be like the Giants, like last year, where teams overlooked them, and while they didn't go far, they did surprise a team in the first round.
Well, the Giants, that was a different example. The Giants were a 6th seed, and the Vikings were frauds at the time. I'm talking about the 7 versus the 2 seed, which is it takes away the bye week for the number 2 seed. And not to mention that a 7 seed has never beaten the 2 seed in the playoff as long as the format has been around. And the average loss has been by double digits, and we've seen so many blowouts from this format. I just don't think the 7 seed in the NFL is good enough to hang with the 2nd seed in the NFL.
I think the only team that actually kept it close was the Colts when they faced Buffalo.
Yeah, that was Phillip Rivers, but that was a little while back. But everything else has really been blowouts.
It's going to happen. I don't know if it'll happen this season, but it will happen.
Well, it's not going to happen with Josh Dobbs in Minnesota as much as I love Josh Dobbs.
Well, you look at the AFC, I think anything can happen with the AFC, let's be honest.
Well, it would be Cleveland going into Baltimore, maybe, but
honestly, with how good all 3 of those defenses are in the wild card right now, I think any of those teams, if they're 7th seed, the defense should steal a game.
I still think that the Browns are a mediocre football team. The Steelers are a mediocre football team. The Bills are mediocre. The Chargers are mediocre. All these teams are very mediocre and they're very flawed. I don't think that they're actually going to make any sort of noise in the playoffs.
I was talking about Deshaun Watson being back. I mean, he faced the Cardinals. He's going into Baltimore in their own home stadium next week, facing the Ravens.
Roquan Smith will take that man's head off.
Do you think he will have the same performance?
Absolutely not.
No way. Not a chance in hell.
That being said, it is a division game. If we're back here next week and the Browns have beaten the Ravens, I won't be surprised. That division's so unpredictable.
Well, I mean,
who wins those games?
AFC North, you mean look at the Ravens versus Steelers in week 4, wasn't it? Everyone was thinking the Ravens were going to blow them out. They outgained the Steelers and everything, but I mean, Pittsburgh just pulled it out of their ass. So anything happens.
Yeah,
anything can happen really between the division in the AFC North, sure. But I think at the end of the day, the 7 seed versus the 2 seed, that's one of those things where that will overrule the division rivalry. I just think that the 2 seed is always going to be significantly better than the 7 seed.
Fair enough. All right, boys. We had the Colts and Panthers, and the Panthers lost their medication this week. You're going to get Frank Reich going up against his whole team, and Colts kind of whooped their ass. It wasn't that interesting of a game. The Panthers looked bad again. Just nothing was going well. Bryce Young, 3 interceptions. And Minshew didn't even have that good of a game. He had only 127 yards and a touchdown, which, I mean, he didn't turn the ball over, but it wasn't like Minshew played out of his mind. And yet you give up – it's that second quarter especially was a killer for them. They gave up 20 points in that second quarter, and Bryce Young's 3 turnovers does not help them whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean –
no, it doesn't.
It might be time for me to finally admit that I was wrong when I said that Bryce Young is going to be the better quarterback between him and CJ Stroud, because that's what I legitimately thought going into the NFL draft, that Bryce Young just looked like more of a polished player.
I don't want to write off Bryce just yet. I mean, he's obviously has nothing around him that's even helping him. I mean, who's his best playmaker? Adam Thielen or Miles Sanders?
Yeah.
But I mean, he doesn't have anything to really help him. So clearly CJ Stroud is playing better. I don't want to just write him off. Don't go Bryce Young's a bust. He's CJ Stroud's easily the better one. I mean, I still think he has a shot. I mean, maybe 2 years or 3 years from now, if he plays like this, then yeah, okay. Then
my concern with Bryce is we see this all the time where you have these top QBs that go to teams that just have nothing there, and they never are able to develop at the NFL level because of that, and then they end up out of the league. And all you can wonder is, with all that talent, what if they went to a roster that was at least competent? And so I'm not saying Bryce Young is going to be a bust, but he's just this very well could turn into one of those situations where it's just there was just never a roster there for him.
I mean, Carolina to me, they were able to do with Cam Newton. I mean, but then again, Cam Newton and Bryce Young's skill sets are 2 very different things. I mean, Cam Newton's 6'6" and an absolute tank running. I mean, Bryce Young is Bryce Young's small and he's short. He's probably shorter than me and Ali, probably. I mean,
let's not go that far, buddy.
Okay, well, sorry.
Who's taller, him or Kyler?
I don't know, but regardless, but I can still see Carolina hopefully getting something if they can get their shit together, fire their GM, hire a more competent one, and trust Frank Reich at first and foremost. So I don't think Frank Reich's the problem down there.
No, I think he's a problem, but I think he's far from the number one problem. But yeah, the Colts look good though. Steichen, I will continue to say, Steichen is the biggest loss to the Eagles. If you look from last season to this season, Steichen is amazing. I genuinely love that man, and I wish he was still with the Eagles. Raiders Giants. Now, I don't know if you guys saw the celebrations coming out of this game for the Raiders, but they were celebrating like they had just won the Super Bowl. Now, I get it. I get the Giants are trash, but they did have Josh McDaniels, so I do think some of it was justified. Did you guys hear the story with Josh McDaniels and the Patriots?
I did not hear that one, no.
Okay, so apparently they were basically in the room, the Raiders, and they were airing everything out. And first of all, a lot of the players were basically like, yeah, it's Josh McDaniels. You're the problem. You're the problem. You're the problem. So that was part of it. But then whoever the coach is now for the Raiders, whoever they put in as interim head coach, he basically said, look at the Giants the year the Patriots went undefeated. And the Giants go into that Super Bowl and they come out with a win. And like that team banded together despite the odds, blah, 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 right? So that was like his whole thing. And Josh McDaniels goes, never talk about the Patriots that way again.
Someone get this man out of the league.
Exactly. How are you a head coach of a team that's not the Patriots and you're like, you can't talk about the Patriots? Literally, all the players were like all hyped up by this talk. And then Josh McDaniels like, don't talk about the Patriots that way.
I mean,
so Josh McDaniels on that Super Bowl team, like as like an assistant coach?
Probably.
If anything, I think that just proves my one point. Josh McDaniels is a fucking clown who should have never even been hired in the first place.
It should have been Bisaccia.
Considered as a head coach in general, because what he did with Indianapolis, Mark Davis, how can you be that stupid to hire the guy after what he did in Indianapolis? Like, there's no way. Josh, like, what was it? The thing with Indianapolis was he was set to go there. They officially announced the hire, and I think the day he was going to get introduced in the press conference, he backed out or something. Was in that thing? Was that
yeah.
How can you hire that guy? How? I don't see it. Mark Davis. I mean, I don't understand.
How do you have a guy that takes one of the worst situations you could possibly have and brings that team, rallies that team to the playoffs, and then not give him the head coaching job? Like, that was such a mistake.
Yeah,
if anything,
it was an $85 million mistake because that's how much it costs for them to fire the coach GM combo.
That being said, with them being out without McDaniels, I think the Raiders move up from trash to just bad.
I'd go with Payne because I mean the fans are pissed off. I have a couple of Raider fans.
That's true. Now you have all those what if questions. What if they just had a different head coach? I
mean, I wasn't. I didn't give Bisaccia the head coaching role. I mean, that doesn't normally work with interims, but I mean, hire somebody competent. Why Josh McDaniels? I don't get it.
Something tells me that the Commanders and the Giants don't belong in the same tier at this point in time.
Commanders are bad. Let's be honest.
Yeah, let's just move them up to bad. That's fair.
Okay.
Even though the Giants beat them, but yeah.
I mean, division game.
Yeah, division game. Alrighty. Speaking of division games, our final game this week, Eagles-Cowboys. And this game, oh my God. First of all, with daylight savings time and it getting dark early and how long this game felt and the years of my life I felt I lost throughout this game, it genuinely felt like this was the 8 o'clock game by the time it was over. I felt like, wait, this wasn't Sunday Night Football? Like, genuinely, I'm like, wait, how is there still more football today? This game, oh boy, I will say that being able to stop the Cowboys when they first got the ball right at the beginning of the game, huge for the defense. Then you go down and score, huge. You're playing to your standard. They look great. And then the Cowboys score, and then the Eagles go 3 and out. And it was at that point, I'm like, This is gonna be a game. I gotta get ready for the Eagles to give me many heart attacks. And people can complain about the refs all they want throughout this game. It ended up being the penalties were even 10-10. Eagles had more penalty yards against. So as much as you want to complain about the refs, shut up, Cowboys fans. Stay salty. Also, I want to mention their fans and Sims. Chris Sims is out there now saying that they need to change the rule about when a touchdown is a touchdown, because even though the guy's knee was down, he still has to survive the ground, and if he doesn't survive the ground, then it's not a catch. So shouldn't the ball be placed wherever
That's
it's
some
at
Skip
the ground?
Bayless type shit right there.
Right. And there are genuinely people now arguing for there to be a rule change for this because they didn't get a touchdown there. Meanwhile, my thought process is, but the same thing happens for out of bounds. So if you toe tap it out of bounds and you have possession, but then you don't survive the ground, it's not a catch. But now your argument is if it should be marked where you hit the ground, so then survive the ground. So shouldn't all those plays now be out of bounds? Like, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Speaking of out of bounds, as much as people want to say Dak was clutching, Dak had a good game, but still, he makes mistakes in all these games. No matter how well he plays, he makes mistakes. Stepping out of bounds on that 2-point conversion play is huge there. You can't do that.
Without doubt.
You can't do those things. You can't step out of bounds there, and you can't get sacked at the end of the game. The Eagles gift you all that field position by Bradbury not looking anywhere back for the ball and taking that giant pass interference. Then again, I will continue to say, if you chuck the ball a bit short on those plays, you are almost guaranteed to get a pass interference, and I hate it. But that's more a league-wide issue than it is Cowboys-Eagles issue. But, like, Bradbury gives them all those yards, and then the Eagles shoot themselves in the foot, and it's like, oh, great, we just blew it to the Cowboys. Cowboys fans are going to act like they smoked us this game. Like, I was already in coping mode of trying to figure out how I'm going to deal with this loss and this pain, because that's what it felt like. And then the defense finally shows up, they get a sack, and then they stop the Cowboys short. The Cowboys fell short. It was a close game. I always thought this was going to be a close game. I thought either team could have won this, but the Eagles won this. And anybody that wants to be like, but the Cowboys played better. What team played better? Blah, blah. Doesn't matter. Look at the scoreboard. Shut up. This whole idea that the Cowboys are a better team because they played a cleaner game. I'm sorry. No. This is a team that went down all the way down the field multiple times and came up with 0 points. Like, how can you argue that this team is so good when you go – they're like, yeah, but they drove this many yards down the field and this many yards down the field and this many yards down the field, and ended up with only this many points and this many points and this many points here. It's like if they just score those points, they blow the Eagles out. It's like, yeah, but they didn't, which, again, that's on them. It's not like you get to be like, well, we're so great because we went all the way down the field and then like, oh, I don't know how we didn't score the points. It was just magical. It's like that's on the team. It just very infuriating watching Cowboys fans after this game. But yeah.
Cowboy fans want to I call them the cry girls. Cry girl fans want to sit here and cry about, oh, refs did this, refs did that. Well, according to your point, yeah. The penalties were even out. Specifically that last drive, both teams shot themselves in the foot. You got the Eagles with those crucial penalties. And then with the Cowboys, when look at the Cowboys were all guaranteed to win the game, they have their own problems with penalties and clock management. Mike McCarthy, I think there's a reason why a lot of people are doubtful of Mike McCarthy. The clock management, the sense of urgency was not there. Like, where was the sense of urgency during that final drive? I didn't see any urgency from the Cowboys. Dak, yeah, he played a great game, but you saw the best running out of bounds on that 2-point conversion. That's huge because rather than trying to go for the win at the end of the game, you can take the tie and go to overtime. And who knows what overtime. So,
by the way, Shreyas, I need to formally apologize to Kenny Gainwell. I've talked so much shit about giving Kenny Gainwell the ball in the red zone. That front flip over the defender, Kenny, I'm sorry.
Okay, Boston Scott is still better. That's my favorite player in the league right there.
I love Boston Scott.
Yeah, to me, I think it just shows why Mike McCarthy is going to get scrutinized with all he does and why people are so skeptical of Dak Prescott. He played a great game, but people are still skeptical of it. That's all I'll say.
He's a 30-year-old quarterback. People are acting like, oh, like I'm sorry, but how many more years, how many more close games against top teams do you need before you just admit, okay, they don't win these big games? You're like, yeah, but they came close. They came close. They almost did. How many more almosts before you're finally willing to admit maybe this isn't working?
It's what I get on Justin Herbert fans about. I mean, like, listen, I mean, like, what I haven't seen it yet. I need to see it from Dak. You expect to be like up here with Dak, but like you're just gonna get down here with him. That's the problem.
It's very much like it very much reminded me of Cam Newton in the Super Bowl against the Broncos. Like you have all these great plays, but then you need one crucial play where you need to just put your body on the line and fight for it for your team, and you don't do it. Dak steps out of bounds instead of fighting to get in the end zone there. And I think that's the difference between really good and elite quarterbacks that are great leaders. If you want to win that game, you stay in bounds and you fight for that. I mean, how many times have we seen – I saw it in person when I went to the Vikings-Eagles game last year where Jalen Hurts is like so far from the end zone, and he basically just powers through a bunch of guys hanging on to him until he gets into the end zone. You have guys in the league that do that put their body on the line, that are willing to do it. Even Carson Wentz, when he had that horrible injury that basically destroyed his career against the Rams all those years ago, it was because he put his body on the line for the team. And if Dak isn't willing to do that and he's going to step out of bounds, you don't get to then sit here and go, well, and cherry pick the rest of his stats and go, well, he's so great and he's not holding the Cowboys back. He's this great leader. I'm sorry. You have to be committed 24/7 for the team. And you see it with Jalen Hurts. Hell, he hurt his knee in this game. His knee's hurt. He gets hurt in the game. He looks like Mahomes in the Super Bowl last year going into halftime with the limping. Then he comes out and looks like Mahomes in the Super Bowl last year where it doesn't even look like it's affecting him. And one of my favorite quotes is at the end of the game, Hurts basically said, for this team, for this city, I'd do anything. And that's the mentality you need to have.
Well, Philly, I mean, like Dak Prescott, I mean, it's like, yeah, you're right. He's 30 years old. It's just like, where has the success been? He hasn't been to a conference championship game. Jalen Hurts already has been to a conference championship game and won the NFC championship game. But Dak Prescott, I mean, like it's not like Dak Prescott's been like undervalued and no one's helping him. I mean, when he came into the league, he had Ezekiel Elliott at his prime. He had Des Bryant, I mean, who was still a good wide receiver. And then as the years go on, I mean, he gets guys like Michael Gallup, Amari Cooper, he got CeeDee Lamb. It's like, listen, you got the players, the results aren't there.
Right.
The results aren't there. And, I mean, like, what more do these Cry Girl fans have to fucking, like, bitch about?
I also love how the Super Bowl loss is all on Hurts for that one fumble in the first half, according to Cowboys fans, even though Hurts played a hell of a game the rest of the game. But the Cowboys' loss this week is not at all on Dak for stepping out of bounds or getting sacked at the end of the game. No, he played a great game, and he was actually the best player, and the Cowboys just deserved to win this week. Yeah, totally.
The reason why the Eagles lost that Super Bowl is because I was rooting for them, and every time I've rooted for the Eagles in my life, they've lost. So, my bad, guys.
Wait, did you root for the Patriots and the Eagles played the Patriots?
I was on the fence, actually.
How are you not rooting for Nick Foles? Excuse me.
It was like I enjoyed the meme of the Eagles never having won a Super Bowl.
Okay, I feel you. I get that. As a Penguins fan that enjoyed that OV meme for the longest time, it was the greatest. Yeah, that one hurt. There will never be as much pain as losing the no cups memes.
Exactly.
Or the no rings memes. I feel that.
Then again, James Harrison was on the Patriots team and it pissed me off.
Oh, God, James Harrison. Don't even start on that asshole. I fucking hate him.
Oh, God. And while there Hurts, I will say this. Hurts could win the next 5 Super Bowls for the Eagles. It will never be as special as Nick Foles winning a Super Bowl that I predicted before Nick Foles was on the roster that season. As a Nick Foles diehard fan that has followed this man throughout his whole career, that will be the happiest I've ever been in sports.
I mean,
I literally called that in the fucking offseason when I saw the roster and I saw Nick Foles playing with KC the year before. I'm like, sign this man, have him as a backup in case Wentz gets hurt. I still think they can win a Super Bowl. And fucking hell, they did it. There's nothing that could top that.
Nick Foles deserves his number retired in Philadelphia, number 9.
I fully agree. Nobody else can wear it.
He deserves a statue in Philadelphia.
Well, he has one.
There is, yeah.
Well, there
Paid
is.
for by Bud Light, mind you, but still.
Oh, thank God, God bless him, because that man probably saved. That man saved. I think he saved the NFL that year. Good the fucking Lord. Let's be honest.
Nick Foles will forever be worshipped in Philly. They had an event this year where Nick Foles came back and Philly fans were chanting for him to re-sign with the team and to come back. Like, fans just want him a part of the organization. I've always said if he wants to go into coaching or anything, I think he would be great as like a QB coach or like some kind of like lower level guy in the organization. I've said that for years. The Eagles need to give him a job that he won't be fired from, basically. And just let him be part of the organization.
Okay, good coach. Is he actively playing right now? Is he on?
He's currently a free agent. He's not officially retired, but he's basically just living his best life with his family. If you don't know about Nick Foles, he came from a wealthy family, and his wife was like a very successful volleyball player as well, and she's got some money. He's basically set for life, and he's got wife and a bunch of kids. Like, he's got a loving family. That man is he's won. He has won in life. Despite the fact that he had to play for Chip Kelly and Jeff Fisher and everything else that happened, that man has won at life.
Good point.
I am so happy for that man. Nick Foles, if somehow I can ever meet you, man, just know I have never doubted you.
Let's hope he sees this.
Dude, I am so mad at myself for not tweeting. I was so confident in that take. I just didn't post it. I'm so mad at myself for it.
I think my most confident take that like everyone laughed at me about was I think Lamar Jackson. Ali, you were one of the people that like roasted me for saying it. I was saying Lamar Jackson was going to be one of the best quarterbacks in that draft class. Every single person when I was at school laughed at me.
Yeah, I was actually one of the people roasting you. I 100%. But you know what? Lamar still hasn't done nothing in the playoffs. So as of right now, I'm still right.
Oh, boys, I want to before we end the show, I want to ask this question. What is your biggest hot take that you had that you were so wrong about? I got to think for a sec. I'm sure there's one. Oh, God, what is it?
I have many.
Okay, well, and I will not count Travis Fulgham as going to be an elite wide receiver because he had the entire city of Philly fooled.
Is it okay if I go on Bilal's behalf here? Because he once told me that Jalen Reagor is a baby Antonio Brown. He told me that on draft night. Jalen Reagor was going to be the next Antonio Brown.
That man was on all the copium because almost every Eagles fan hated that pick.
Listen, you know what? We can tell him that when he gets back here next time. Make a mental note. Roast him for it.
Oh, my God.
He actually said that?
He did say that.
I'm trying to think, what is my worst?
What was my worst? Ali, I know I told a lot of hot takes over the years. What was my worst?
That Chris Moore was going to be a Pro Bowler.
See, I can think of a bunch of hockey hot takes. I'm trying to think NFL.
Ask that question. I should have knew you were going to say that.
I'm trying to think NFL. What is it? Oh God.
Oh my.
This is hard.
Another one. What was my other hot take? I think one of my hot takes was. I think no credit. That was the Chris Moore one. Was a really bad one. Ooh. I can't think of another one. Ali, you probably know a lot of my bad takes. So I'm sure just roast away while you can.
I'm trying to think what else you said.
Oh, I know one actually. Because this was when Baker was with the Browns still, and he was getting all that hate, and then he had the shoulder injury season. And I remember my hot take was once he gets healthy the following season, this man is going to go back into elite status. Yeah.
I thought the same thing. I'm not going to lie to you. I love Baker.
That's not a hot take necessarily, so I don't think you can really call that.
I don't know, man. I was like, he might be top 5 QB in the league. Like, I was at that point.
Oh.
Like, I was so sold on the Baker pack. Oh, another one, Ryan Tannehill. I was sold on Ryan Tannehill as well.
Oh, no, not Ryan Tannehill.
That was bad. I genuinely blame Miami for everything wrong with Ryan Tannehill.
Our good friend, Blue Dragon, a couple years back, I think it might have been 2 years ago during our fantasy draft. He drafted Ryan Tannehill, listed off a bunch of stats saying why Ryan Tannehill was going to go off in fantasy, looked at us, said, so take that for data, and then had to release Ryan Tannehill after like week 3.
What didn't that man one time say Sam Darnold? Didn't that man still believe in Sam Darnold?
Yeah, he legitimately thinks that the Giants should have drafted Sam Darnold over Saquon Barkley.
I will continue to say Sam Darnold, if he didn't go to Adam Gase first, probably was still a quarterback in the NFL, like a starting quarterback.
The backup on San Francisco, but
I genuinely think if he didn't end up with Adam Gase, he's still a starting quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah,
him ending up with McAdoo would have given him the same result.
I mean, let's see.
You make a fair point.
Let's see. You would have, if you went to the Giants, you wouldn't have Saquon, but you would have OBJ. You would have Sterling Shepard. You would have.
Well, the reason why the Giants drafted Saquon was because they thought their window was still open with Eli.
If I'm not mistaken, they did make the playoffs. What, a year, 2 years before, right?
Yeah, they went 11-5 2 years prior. They had a down year, and that's when they drafted Saquon.
Actually, I know another good NFL hot take I had. Well, it really wasn't a hot take. It was just a bold prediction, and that was at the halftime in that Falcons game, I predicted that the Falcons would beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl. And listen, you could say everybody thought that, but Falcons fans will tell you that is still a bold prediction. Until the zeros are on the clock, predicting the Falcons to win a game at any point is a bold prediction.
Yeah.
I was talking so much shit. I'm like, who's going to stop Julio Jones? Nobody. I had Julio Jones that season in fantasy. So, like, I was all on the Julio Jones hype train that season. So, like,
I think that was really his last good year before he kind of, like, slowly declined.
Dude, that Super Bowl cursed everybody that was attached to the Falcons, pretty much.
Yeah, Keanu Neal is now, like, a backup safety on the Steelers.
What's up with Keanu Neal?
That linebacker, Devondre Campbell or something like that. He had a couple of good years for the Packers, but he really fell off after that. So really defensively,
another big one that kind of just like fell off.
Dante Fowler off the edge became a scrub.
I think he was at Jacksonville still before he signed.
Oh, was he really?
But that year,
what am I thinking of? There was the D end on the Falcons.
Grady Jarrett, maybe.
No, he plays in the inside.
That's a tough one. Then
I know another recent one that was bad. I thought Drew Lock was going to be the best quarterback to come out of the Russell Wilson trade.
Oh, yeah, I thought he was going to beat out Geno.
Yep. I thought Drew Lock was going to not only beat out Geno, but look really good.
I think my bad draft take was probably predicting that Marquise Brown would be like the second coming of Antonio, I think.
Hollywood Brown.
Yeah.
That guy was the most disrespected player in the NFL. Love that guy.
Shut the fuck up. You don't know how agonizing it was seeing that man drop like 3 beautiful touchdown passes and relying on Justin Tucker to kick like a 66-yard field goal. That one game against Detroit Lions. Oh my God.
Speaking of drop passes, Kenny Britt, boys. Do you guys remember Kenny Britt?
I haven't heard that name in a minute.
Dude, that was the most painful thing when they shipped Foles to the Rams and he had to play with Jeff Fisher and then Kenny Britt being his best receiver. And every time Foles would actually make a good pass, Britt was like, I don't know how to catch a football. And so it made Foles' stats way worse. Foles was not good with the Rams. The Rams are a horrible team, to be fair. They had no O-line, to be fair. And they had no weapons, to be fair. But Foles was still bad, I will admit. He was not good with the Rams. But yeah, Kenny Britt, man. Oh, hate that man.
What was another bad take? Ali, I told you a lot of hot takes over these. I know the Chris Moore thing. You never let me down with that. But like, there's got to be something there that like.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
I think.
I'm trying to remember. Obviously, it's got to be a sports take. You can't attack for any of the personal takes I've had.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna come after you for your like Pokemon.
Shut up! No. No.
Oh my
We're not
God.
talking about that. That is not podcast related.
Good Lord. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I know last year I predicted that the Bruins wouldn't even make the playoffs in the NHL, and then they had the best season of any team ever.
It's all right. They lost in the first round, so it's pretty much missing the playoffs.
I have a lot of hot baseball takes over there. I know that. A lot of baseball takes.
Oh my God! Speaking of hockey, though, Ali, the thing that makes me more sad than anything is the fact that Tampa won those back-to-back cups because it completely ruined the fun we had when they got swept by Columbus.
Yeah,
that is the like. I will say, as much as the Caps winning a cup was sad for me, and we lost that whole thing, I think Tampa winning back-to-back was even worse from a joke standpoint for the NHL.
Who was that guy that lost to Tampa Bay in the Stanley Cup final, joined Tampa Bay, and then lost the Stanley Cup final
Jeff
next year?
Petrie. This is Shreyas, I'm going to give you a little history on hockey for recent years. There's a man by the name of Jeff Petrie, and he was a player. He had won a Stanley Cup with the Ducks years ago, but he's like in the final years of his career, and he goes and he signs a contract with the Dallas Stars. They go all the way to the Stanley Cup final, and they lose to the Tampa Bay Lightning. So the next season, he's like, all right, I'm just going to go to a new team. He goes to the Montreal Canadiens. The Canadiens somehow lucked their way to a Stanley Cup final. Who do they play? Tampa Bay Lightning. What happens? They lose the Stanley Cup final. He says, fuck it, I'm going to go play with the Tampa Bay Lightning. They get all the way to the Stanley Cup final. He's with the Lightning. They're in the final. This is it. Finally, Jeff Petrie's going to get his cup. What happens? They lose to the Avalanche. This was the Hossa curse times 2. Shreyas, years ago, there was a man by the name of Marian Hossa who was on the Pittsburgh Penguins in 2008 when they lost to the Red Wings. So then he joins the Red Wings, and the Red Wings go back to the Cup, and so do the Penguins, and then the Penguins beat the Red Wings. So Hossa's like, screw it, I'm getting away from both these teams. I'm going to the Blackhawks. And unfortunately, the Flyers weren't able to upset the Blackhawks, and he gets a cup there. So this Petrie basically brought back the Hossa curse in a whole better way. I am so happy about it.
That is funny. Holy shit.
I swear to God, if Petrie didn't have that cup earlier in his career, I think that man might have shot himself. Oh my God. That is brutal. Alrighty, boys. I think that pretty much wraps up this week, though, for NFL. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We have been Pigskin Banter, and we'll be back for we'll be back Thursday for our Week 9 preview. Plus, we will continue to update our quarterback tier list. And yeah, that one's going to get interesting because we got more names to add to the board. Carson Wentz, we will see you on the tier list this week.
Maybe discuss something maybe next Tuesday. We should discuss potential head coaching candidates.
Oh, that would be fun.
That would be because there's some good names that are probably going to come up this offseason.
All right,
to the Bears.
Yeah, Flores anywhere. Anywhere. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us. We've been Pigskin Banter, and we will see you Thursday.
Take care.